Hi, and this is Al McLeod. Welcome to AI for Strategic Planning and other topics for the U of W MIM program. This is the continuation from the February 12th, 2026 meeting we had. Um, and again, I'm Al McLeod. Let's go. So, next topic I want to talk about was using AI in strategy work. So, worked with AI with Notebook LM and created this visual for you. So on the left side, you've got human intelligence. What could we be? And artificial intelligence on the right side, which is what is likely. At the intersection of those two comes strategy, informed choice. So strategic options, tested assumptions, prioritized futures, credible vision, aligned direction, and confident commitment. This is the intersection of human and artificial together. So on the human side, you got human judgment, and on the machine side, you have machine insights. So you've got human intelligence being like having purpose, value, and ethics, creativity, intuition, narrative, courage, judgment, trade-offs, relationships, all sorts of different things. On the artificial intelligence side, you have this incredible set of capabilities that have been developed since, the last couple of years in particular, that have taken us to the point where we can use data and create patterns and analyze patterns, create forecasts like strategic foresight analysis, create scenarios, develop risk models, do simulations, and create benchmarks that we can use, and of course do premortems so that we can try to foresee into the future, so to speak, different options. So as you can see, these two uh, uh, entities, human intelligence and artificial intelligence, work very well together in strategy work. So I've created this picture also out of Notebook LM. It's about the role of generative AI in strategic planning. So you can expand strategic awareness, make sense the world faster, which is all talking about, we talked about open source intelligence at our last meeting. And that's really using AI to scan open source sources of information like podcasts and blogs and government of Canada sites and UN stuff and all these different sources, pull back those signals, that data, and out of there create trends and insights that can help us in our strategic planning, both before and after. Reframing strategic questions using AI to help us do that. Exploring futures and scenarios. Imagine what's next. Doing scenario generation. So what happens if this occurs? What would that look like to our business? How would we react? Doing impact analysis. So what if we want to try to become a B Corp? What would that mean? What would be the impact of it on us? Option generation. This is diverging before you converge. If you remember our earlier discussion on the 12th, we talked about diverging, which means creating more information, creating ideas and information. Converging is about then doing just collapsing that data through analysis and things like that, and coming up with ideas and coming up with plans based on that diverging and converging. So open up options and then make decisions. So alternative strategies and doing risk and reward analysis. Then stress testing and risks is about surfacing weak spots, finding the weak spots, risk modeling, and analyzing for vulnerabilities, figuring out resilience strategies. So what if this vulnerability happens? What would you do? Translating strategy into action for having your plans, but then how do you actually execute the program and monitor the program? And continuous strategy is all about if things happen and you find through your signals and your trends, you find out things are happening, how do you react early and how do you have plans for those things? And it's about iterative learning as you go as well. So AI is a thinking partner, not the decision maker. That's the human. So let's talk a bit about AI for learning and research. This is one of my favorite topics because these are two ways I use AI a lot, both in innovation work and in strategy work. So learning for just understanding topics like nuclear fusion or the brain, right? Very important. Research is about, so how does, tell me about the agriculture industry in Canada. Let's go do research into it. So here's four different categories of tools. So one of them, I have just a really cool prompt that I got a few years ago from the University of Saskatchewan called Timmy the Tutor. It's awesome prompt. that acts like a tutor. It's still one of the best things I have for learning, and it was free. And it's free to you as well. So for ChatGPT, the second one is ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude have study and learning modes, which are really cool. So it can act as a tutor, much like the first prompt, but in a different way. And then Notebook LM is one of the best tools on the market from Google, and it's like a Swiss Army knife. It has so many different capabilities. And finally, deep research tools. Perplexity was the first deep research tool, but we have ChatGPT, Gemini, Microsoft 365, Copilot Research all provide deep research capabilities. So let's look at this AI tutor called Timmy the Tutor. I created a chatbot using this prompt, and you can get it here through this URL or this QR code. You can go and play with Timmy the Tutor, see how you like it. But let's go and see how I used it recently. So this is the results of a chat I had with Timmy the Tutor this week. So here, how would you like to get started? I'd like to understand about memory and emotions. How are they related? Ask what my learning level is. I say, oh, I'm high school, I mean. And that's because I picked high school because I really like to learn by analogy. And this is when it's a topic I don't know much about, I find learning by analogy is really cool. And if you use college or high school, it'll use more analogies in the tutoring process. So I said, high school, I know how they're related, but not sure how, because it asks you, what do you already know about this? So it says high school level is perfect. You're right, memory and emotions are related. Now we'll uncover how step by step. Start with the question. Why do you think you remember emotional events like a real happy day or an embarrassing moment or something scary more clearly than boring ones like a random homework night? It doesn't ask you to be scientific, just use your intuition. And that gives you a clue. Inside your brain, there are two key areas. One part helps process emotions, and the other one helps store memories. If something emotional happens, these two areas talk to each other more than usual. So it's giving you some hints. So then it gives you another one. So it's like a highlighter. Like what kind of moments do you think your brain will highlight as important to save for later? Emotional ones or neutral ones? Why? So I said emotional ones because they likely have significance for the future, and stronger emotions like fear might actually have a stronger effect. And it comes back and says, yes, excellent insight. It gives you some, makes you feel better, acting like a neuroscientist, and then summarizes what you said and actually adds a little bit to them just to kind of help you out, and then builds on your reasoning. So it says when your brain is doing, it says two important brain systems work together. One system detects emotions and danger, another system helps store memories. And when the emotion is strong, especially fear, the emotion sends a powerful signal that says this is important, remember it. And this goes into, and then it gives you more, a little bit of clues, and then it starts to ask you again, so how do we take this further? Wonderful tool, very useful for kids as well, but I really like this tool and I use it actually a lot. Try it out. Another one is the deep research tools are another kind of really cool tool, as I said. So this is ChatGPT deep research, and so what these tools do is you give it a prompt, and it will go off and it'll work for it's like what's called an agent. So it'll work on its own for 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, going scouring resources, bring them back. It gives you all the citations. One of the things that's really neat is it will actually ask you a series of questions when it starts so that it doesn't have to come back to you. So ask clarifying questions so that it has enough information to answer your question. So here we go. So here is ChatGPT, and I said we are a Canadian electronics manufacturing company developing our strategic plan. Create a strategic foresight report for Industry 4.0 in Canada over the next 5 to 10 years. So here's a strategic foresight report, which is part of strategic planning, especially in technology areas. I like to use it. So then it did redid it in 26 minutes, came up with 34 different sources, and here's the report. And it comes an executive summary and lots of detail and analysis, like gives you some scenarios, probabilities. And so this is something that would be very helpful when you're entering into a planning session because it gives you a bunch of data that you can use to try to analyze what could happen in the future. And just like I said, wonderful tool, and really use it, this kind of deep learning a lot. Very much recommended. So then what I did though is I took the results of that deep learning report and I loaded it into a tool called Notebook LM. And we'll talk a bit about that. It's a Google tool, very good tool. And here's that report right here. And here's you can chat with the data here, or you can come here and you can use Studio to create a bunch of assets. Like you can generate an AI podcast or an explainer video or a mind map, one of my favorite tools, by the way, reports, quizzes, flashcards, and these are really cool. Infographic, an AI infographic, and you can actually change it. You can say a portrait or a square, or you can say a concise or detailed. Really, really nice. And also a slide deck you can do as well with the same kind of ability to tailor the slide deck. And here's an example of a mind map for the 4.0 electronic, uh, sorry, Industry 4.0 electronics company strategic blueprint. So here goes the core imperatives, operational traceability, resilience by design, hybrid workforce strategy. And then you can go into each one of these and go down, and then you can actually chat with that part of the data, which is pretty amazing. All right, so now let's go to the next one. So now what we're going to look at is Perplexity. Perplexity also does deep research reports. And here's one on the roads to AV and EV and AV futures in Canada. Compare and contrast the two. So here I said compare and contrast the road to ubiquitous EV tech in Canada and the road to ubiquitous AV tech in AV tech in Canada. And here it reviewed 10 sources, and you can see, you can go through and look and see if you like them or not. And it'll also put the citations in, just like ChatGPT did. And then it talks about the current status of EVs and AVs in Canada, and then with policy and regulatory roadmaps, infrastructure and technology requirements, market demands. And then it compares the two, and it says, what's the difference between the two? What's the poly posture, tech maturity? So a very comprehensive reports. And then I actually asked a question with the Mayberry slowing AV testing and expansion in Canada, and it comes up with these things, regulatory governance, and then it talks about environmental changes and stuff like that. So that is that. And then what I did was I loaded up into Notebook LM again. And so now you have this perplexity report that I loaded into here. And I also loaded the another report from ChatGPT in here, and now you have lots and lots of data, and you can go through and you can actually do the same kind of things. You can, create an audio report. You can, here's an example of a podcast.
Math, battery costs, charging density, supply chains. You can put all of that into a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
You can forecast demand based on GDP and gas prices.
It's an engineering and logistics problem, a very, very hard one, but a solvable one.
Precisely. But with
So there, so really cool. And so if we talk about Notebook LM, let's go to the tool itself. And by the way, this is an example of a really nice one-page infographic summary of a very complex topic, and that's the AI-powered boutique strategy firm. And it shows the 3 steps, 3 layers, and what are the steps and things like that. So, like I said, lots and lots of great tools. Sorry. Okay, so let's go back for 1 second, though. I want to show you something more about this tool. So let's go to Notebook LM here. Okay. And so when you look at Notebook LM, you can see I have a lot of notebooks here. I've got about 25 or 26 notebooks. Matter of fact, I'm at the max limit, so I think it's 25. I'm at the max limit of my of what I can do. And I have to actually get rid of some to go further. But that's okay. I've got lots and lots of information here. Actually, I got more than 25 now that I look a lot. Anyway, so here's an example of a notebook here for, this one's a really good example. So you can, when you're adding a source or when you're creating a new notebook, it will let you add sources. So here's an example of, you can add upload files or go to websites or a Google Drive, or you can actually copy text in, and you can actually even use this one here is YouTube. It will use a YouTube video as well, which is pretty neat. But one of the really neat things you can do is you can just type in here what your prompt is. And that's what I did for this one. I just asked it a prompt, and frankly, I couldn't remember a few things, so I just for fun, I just started typing away, and it came back with this information on. So here's where is it here? So I basically asked just tell me about the next frontier of ground-based astronomy in Chile, which is where they're building this extremely large telescope. And it came through and found all these sources on its own. I did not find them, it found them. Now I can go through these and decide which ones I like, and I can unclick anyone, uncheck anyone I don't want to be included. But this is all included in my database here, my notebook. And so here's an example of an infographic, for example, that you can do. Like I said, you can do infographics. You can do. We've got a mind map right here that we've done for this giant Magellan telescope, and just a wonderful tool. And I highly recommend you try it. So if you can go and you can just ask for it to pull together stuff, and then you can tell which ones you like or don't like. Okay. Excuse me. This tool is called the Design Thinking Chatbot. I created this, excuse me. I created this using ChatGPT Plus's chatbot creation tool. GPT, they call it creations. And so you can use this QR code, or you can use this link to go and use them. Just show you an example here. And here's for design thinking. How do I know if I've reframed the problem properly? And it'll come through and it'll tell you, give you a really good description of how to do that. So if you're interested in design thinking and you want to actually maybe take a little training on YouTube and then come here, you can use this for the rest of it. You can use it to find out anything. So why would you reframe and how would you reframe a problem? It gives you lots and lots of detail and things you can try as well, which is really good. And it's got all sorts of different things. Here's one. Can you help me create a user journey map? Now, just so you know, those 4 questions on the bottom, that is, you can ask anything. I just added 4 starter questions to make it easier to show. And so here's about creating a user journey map. It tells you how to do that, and it lets you define the scope. And you can also kind of create images out of this as well. All right, so that's Design Thinking Guru. So the next one is to create a Spark Coach. And in a similar way, create a Spark Coach is one for creative exercises. And it can do 10 or 15 different creative thinking exercises. So this one is called This Meets That Organization Challenge. So I asked it for one of those and said, hey, NASA and IKEA. And the challenge is to imagine a collaboration between two, and what would they create together? And so here it gives you some nudges, some examples, or some ideas, but you're on your own. And then you came up with this idea, a NASA space station completely furnished by IKEA furniture with name tags and all the items. And it says that's okay, but then it comes back with some other ideas and asks you to go deeper, and it gives you more ideas and really tries to get you to really come up with more and better ideas. So there's a lot of different kinds of experiments and creativity exercises you can do using that. And that's it. And thank you very much for watching. And again, I'll say it was a pleasure meeting you all. I loved your questions you had at our session. And Miriam, you can let me know anytime I can come back. I'd love to do your session again. It was a lot of fun. Thank you very much, everybody.